What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. It's NFL Week 7. This is our waivers pod here on the Fantasy Flex. And as always, I'm joined by one of the most accurate fantasy rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Koerner. Sean, how's it going?
Pretty good. Had a wild Week 6. Hope you had a good one. And yeah, I can't believe it's already Week 7.
Oh, yeah. I definitely did have a good one. And I was actually laughing to myself because I remember you were making fun of me for putting picks in like a minute or two before the game, and so I ended up betting a bunch of Luke McCaffrey anytime touchdowns. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna put it in. I don't think I have enough time.
Oh, you didn't track it for a full unit?
No. I
don't think I made fun. Yeah. I think Gifford made fun of you, and I piggybacked on that. But
that makes sense because if it's too close, it's like no one gets a chance to bet. I get it.
What was he trading at? Was he couldn't have been double digits?
I think I got him at like +4. No, I like plus 450 or so.
Oh, okay.
Nice little hit because I had Bears. I had the Bears on the spread.
Oh, nice.
So I parlayed those in some spots.
Yeah.
But
I had Shavers 13-1.
Woo!
I should have just taken over 1.5 yard. Usually my touchdown bets hit when I just get them out on the show. Once I track it, boom. It's toast. But yeah, I thought Shavers at 13-1. I was waiting for a Raybon full unit bet on that. I was showing him like closer to 9-1. But yeah, Allen was looking at him in the end zone one of the plays. It's all you can ask for when you have a 13-1 bet, you know?
Yeah, and hopefully we give out our top priorities here aren't 13-1 bets this week because then there would be an issue. But we're going to go through our favorite waiver targets at each position. Quick reminder, all of our fantasy football content available right now over at fantasylabs.com. Fantasy Labs NFL includes in-season rankings, waiver wire tips, and more. We've also added a survivor pool tool to help you make informed picks all season long. Make sure to use code FLEX20, that's FLEX20, for $20 off at fantasylabs.com/flex. All right, Koerner, Week 7. Who's your top quarterback target on the waiver wire?
I feel like we're going with the same guys again this week, but I'm going to go with Jackson Dart, who's still available in 68% of leagues. Definitely has a tough matchup this week against the Broncos. Just not sure what's left to say about Dart at this point. I think, his massive rushing upside, which I keep hammering home, gives him, QB1 ceiling every single week. So even a tough spot like this against the Broncos, his legs could get him there. Last week he finished as the QB3 against the Eagles. And like I said, I keep giving him out on the touchdown show. His rushing upside is massive, just getting up yards, but also scoring touchdowns, which again, he's down Malik Neighbors for the season. He was down Darius Slayton last week. So he kind of has to use his legs a bit to overcome that. So I have him ranked, modestly like QB 19 right now. But again, he's just one of those guys that has a higher ceiling that's hard to capture in my median projection. And then just rest of season. If you're looking for a guy to offer you low-end QB1 upside for the rest of the season, he's your guy. If you want to keep, streaming week to week, maybe go with someone else this week. But I just love Dart's ceiling. So that's why I'm going to continue to roll with him as my top streamer pick here.
Literally a potential league winner. We talked about this before the season, and what I mean by that is he doesn't have a bye until week 14. So you have another, if you pick him up, you don't have just that Broncos game. You have 6 more after that. So 7 straight games of Jackson Dart, then a bye in week 14. Hopefully by that point, you're good. And then you just start in with the playoffs, and then he's got Washington, Minnesota, and at the Raiders. So Minnesota, that could get a little dicey. But I think he's a potential league winner alert if people haven't already realized. But that being said, you're putting New York fans through torture that just watched the Jets slog themselves to 2 yards of offense against the Broncos. So it's going to take a lot, but I think it's the right call. And it's a kind of an ugly mid-tier of quarterbacks this week. So Trevor Lawrence would be the guy for me after Dart. And I don't even love him. He's another guy. I have Dart a little higher. He's my QB 15 and Lawrence is 16. So they're kind of neck and neck there. But going up, in international game against the Rams, I think this Jaguar offense still leaving meat on the bone, I feel like, every week. And so I'm not going to shy away from Lawrence. I know he has the rushing upside. I think this, that Seahawks defense was a tough defense last week. So he's still kind of in that mid tier for me. Hasn't truly broken out yet though, even though the Jags are playing a little bit above expectation here. So still waiting for it. I wouldn't go with him over Dart, but I just think Dart has more upside. But Lawrence maybe has a safer floor just because of the defensive matchup, given what Denver did last week. But it's tough. All right, running back. Who you got?
Well, he's the guy I brought up last week. Kamani Vidal, still available in 69% of leagues. Faces the Colts this week. Yeah, exactly. And I mentioned last week that Haskins was likely to get the first crack at it. I definitely had him higher ranked, and that was confirmed before, right? They said that Haskins it's going to be the lead back, but it's just one of those things where there was so much uncertainty. They were probably going to go with the hot hand, and that just turned out to be Vidal last week, and he looked excellent. Rushed for 124 yards. So he's a clear must-add now. Well, at this point, it's going to require a pretty hefty bid to get him now because he's kind of sticking out after last week. That's why I like to stash guys before something like that happens. But it's safe to assume, I think it could flip next week where, Haskins has the hot hand. But I think Vidal probably has more talent anyway. So I think he's going to maintain, RB3 flex value until Hampton comes back, which it sounds like Hampton is going to miss more than the 4 games. Harbaugh's been kind of coy on the extent of the injury. So, he might have a handful of starts coming up here. However, if Hampton is out longer, they might want to trade for somebody. So there's that angle too. Yeah. But I think just based on how good Vidal looked last week, they're probably more comfortable just buying some time and seeing this week. If, he has another good game, maybe they'll just wait out until Hampton returns and not trade for somebody. But again, this is a very murky situation. I'm not saying, he's a must add at 70% of your fab or something. But if you're desperate, you need wins now, and you're hurting at running back, I think he should be safer to offer you RB3 flex value in the meantime. So what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So I want to flip it around. If you are one of the 31%, I guess, that has him on your roster.
Oh, yeah.
Do you try to sell high? Because the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken, were number 32 in EPA per rush defense coming in. And you and I have seen Haskins and Vidal in person numerous times, and neither of them has looked good. So I'm thinking that this is a sell high, but you're right. Hampton could be out for the year for all we know too. And so, but they're reportedly looking for running back help. So, where would you, what kind of offer would you have to get in return to just, let him go and sell high and, say, okay, he's never going to rush for that many yards or put up that high of a fantasy score again.
Yeah. That's a great question. And again, if your running back depth is so good, you're not even playing this week, then you're already kind of wasting the upside he's offering. I'm looking, they do play the Titans in a couple weeks, so it'd be nice to have him for that matchup. No,
you got to save him for that. Yeah. Tell the person you're about to trade. Yeah. Make sure you know.
Yeah, exactly. They play the Colts this week, which isn't great, but yeah, he should be the workhorse back this week. They play the Vikings, then the Titans, then Steelers and Jags. And then they're on a bye, and you would think that, Hampton might be nearing return by then, or they have traded for somebody. So, yeah, I agree. I think if you sell high right now, if you're not even going to play him this week, makes a ton of sense. Who you could get, maybe get a guy like Travion Henderson that, why would anybody want to hang on to him at this point? If you drafted him, you're disappointed. Maybe you could pry him away, or Kenneth Walker III. I don't know what kind of market you can get for Vidal. But, yeah, if somebody's hurting and they want him, absolutely try to sell high on him.
Yeah, that's just my thinking, just because I know that Dolphin defense is so bad. But I agree. I thought Vidal looked better than he's ever looked, but it's a week-to-week league. And, yeah, there's just so much uncertainty about when Hampton's coming back. And is this going to be the same split? Last week we saw in Arizona, they're like, all right, you know what? Michael Carter, forget it. we're going to go with the other guy this time. And, so you really don't know with these guys at all. The fact that they were even starting Hassan Haskins, we've seen Kenneth Gainwell in Pittsburgh. So it's, Charbonnet. Yeah. We expected that, but it's an interesting question. Who else do you like?
Yeah, I like Tajay Spears as well. Last week he actually outsnapped Tony Pollard. And that was likely because they just completely abandoned the run early on, and Spears is more of the pass catching back. So that's sort of why he outsnapped Pollard. But when you think about it, that could be the case every week with the Titans get into a trailing game script. Plus, they just fired Callahan. So it's unclear what this coaching staff thinks of the backfield and how they're going to handle it going forward. And usually that's just uncertainty is going to hurt the lead back, who is Tony Pollard. So could be more of a 50-50 timeshare. I like Spears as a talent. He just hasn't been healthy the last 2 seasons. So if he's healthy, this could be a 50-50 backfield. And, he could offer RB3 flex value even in that scenario. And then RB2 value if Pollard misses time. It's just this team is such a shit show that you can't expect too many like touchdowns or things. But, he could rack up receptions if they start getting Cam Ward to check down as opposed to get sacked. So there's paths for Spears to offer value. And he didn't have a great game in the box score, so I'm sure you could get him for basically free. And there's just other backups that are just kind of an injury or, running back trade away from offering value and requiring a huge bid, like Kendre Miller, Kyle Mononganai looked good last night, Tyler Algier, and of course Blake Corum. Like those kind of guys you want to stash before they have a big week or the starter goes down if you want to save on fab or you don't have fab. Those are just a handful of guys I think that are worth stashing in deeper leagues.
Yeah, I think the best, like you said, Callahan being gone does raise my eyebrows a little with Spears because the bottom line is he hasn't been healthy. And that's probably why he doesn't get a bigger role. But when he was at the end of last year and Pollard was kind of banged up, Spears looked like the better back. So, and Pollard looked good last year too. So that's not a slight on him either. But yeah, I think there's definitely some upside with Spears. So that's a good call. I'm going to go with Bam Knight. That's the other guy that you got to pick up at this point. You don't know what Arizona's going to do from week to week. He's still available in 88% of leagues, though. And they are going up against a tough run defense in Green Bay, but he scored 2 weeks in a row. I saw DeMercado popped up on the injury report. I think he have a concussion. So Carter might just end up getting the pass down work, like the DeMercado role, and Bam Knight might get the Bam Knight role or James Conner, Trey Benson role. So, it's not an easy matchup, but they are a home dog. They have been losing games by very tight scores, and they saw Carter carry the ball 18 times in that couple weeks ago and score on the ground, and they weren't satisfied. It seems like they made the switch. So same thing with Haskins and Vidal, but I think it could switch back. But Carter didn't really blow anybody away the way Vidal did, so a little bit less likely, I think. So I think you definitely want to, again, just pick him up, stash him. Hopefully he's not as expensive as Vidal, and you can kind of go under the radar a little more with him. But he has scored 2 weeks in a row, which is a good sign.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy last week how Schefter reported, Bam Knight's going to start. And then I was asking you, how you're handling it. And you're like, kind of a 50-50 split. That's kind of how I had it. And then Carter started. And then I guess Schefter kind of got bailed out because Bam Knight scored after I think Carter didn't score on a goal line carry. Anyways, it brings me to a larger point, and I kind of want to get your take on it. But it seems like insider reporting hasn't been as reliable this year. Same thing with Zay Flowers is supposed to be kind of limited, and he played basically his full complement of snaps. So how are you kind of handling info like that coming out where it just hasn't been as reliable? I'm not really blaming the reporters. It's just teams are kind of giving, fake news or something. It hasn't been the same this year where you could really rely on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I've always kind of I try to read between the lines as much as I can without making any assumptions. But if there's upside to making an assumption, I will make it. And so when I hear something like that, I tend to go look at the numbers and say or the film and say okay, what are the coaches thinking? In this case, I ended up switching Knight to a pretty high percentage of the carries, but a pretty low percentage of the pass downs and kept Carter there. And it ended up working out because of DeMercado. But I think with what I was looking at with that backfield coming in was why would they say this? Because Carter really has done nothing after contact. He hasn't really created anything extra. And if you go back to preseason, Bam Knight, he went off, I think, or he had a long run in preseason, at least one. if I'm not mistaken. And so they're probably kind of looking back at that and saying, okay, I think this guy gives us more upside. So I'm going to kind of flip it the way they think it's going to be, and hope they get there, even if the carries don't line up exactly. Knight ended up, 11-9 split. Knight ended up leading, but Knight was in there for 13 total run snaps. Like the quarterback, I guess, or somebody else ran for 2 of them. So I mean, that's not a crazy starter backfield for a hot hand situation. It's pretty. I don't think that was the most wrong one of the year, but yeah, it was definitely a little confusing. But these teams are aware. They're aware of these reports, and I even heard a couple weeks ago Shanahan came into the team and he was pissed that the Niners went from like 6.5 to 8.5 underdogs against the Rams on that Thursday night game, and that preceded that upset. So they're aware of a lot more than we think.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Just got to try to read between the lines, but this is one wide receiver.
Yeah,
you like a couple guys. I like these because these are some guys that I'm usually high on too, and I think they're gonna break out. So who you talking about at wide receiver? Who you targeting?
Yeah, so most weeks wide receiver waiver wire is trash. It just seems like we're talking about wide receiver 4 types that are coming off a big week, so everyone wants to add them, but then they just have a wider range of outcomes. So then they're going to post a dud. People are going to get frustrated and drop them for the next flavor of the week. Not this week. I think this is a little bit different with Luther Burden III. I think he's a must-add if you're a deeper league and you start like 3 wide receivers, because he's a super talented rookie who's just buried on the depth chart right now. He's behind Zacchaeus right now for wide receiver 3, but I think he's really DJ Moore's backup. So DJ Moore looks like he stayed behind. He was hospitalized last night. I don't really know what happened. I know people are speculating, he got hit like on the side. Who the heck knows? But hopefully he's okay. But if he has to miss this week, Burden is going to see a massive increase in snaps, and he's been super productive in his limited role. Had 4 catches for 51 yards last week. So if DJ Moore is out, he could be posting solid wide receiver 3 value. I think I have him projected wide receiver 25 right now if DJ Moore is out. So he's kind of a rare wide receiver waiver ad where he's not coming off a massive week, but he has a ton of upside where you could potentially be adding a wide receiver 2 off the waiver wire if things line up. And if Moore returns this week, Burton's role is still going to grow. He could eventually overtake Zacchaeus. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, but Zacchaeus is playing so well. They can't really bench him. So he's just one of those guys that's one injury away of offering some serious upside. So he's a guy that I would add this week. The other guy is Jordan Whittington, just because it sounds like Puka's day-to-day with this ankle injury, but I mean, they have to travel overseas. They have a bye next week. So it makes sense to hold him out if he's not 100%. So Whittington would be kind of a potential stash because Tutu Atwell's also iffy as well. So Whittington, we might be ending up projecting him for 5 catches by the end of the week. So he's a potential flyer if you're like a wide receiver needy team, but it'd probably only be a 1-week rental. So bid accordingly. Don't bid anything for him. Try to pick him up tomorrow if he clears waivers. But Luther Burden III, where would you project him if, say, DJ Moore was out this week and just his overall ceiling for the rest of the season?
If DJ Moore's out, I would have him around the same places, maybe a little lower than DJ Moore. So I'd probably have him in the mid 30s. I don't think I would have him as high as 25, because I do think Zacchaeus would still be.
Yeah.
He would also get a bump. He played around 75% of the pass snaps, Burden around 40%. But what happened was they cut back a lot on their 2 tight end personnel and just went with, kind of an even split between Cole Kmet and Loveland, with Loveland playing a little bit more on pass downs and Kmet more on rundowns. So I think that's telling in itself that they kind of switched away. They kind of went away from that 2 tight end offense a little bit. Now we know Washington was playing a lot of man defense, so maybe that was a schematic thing. We probably need more data, so there's a lot of moving parts. But yeah, I would probably have him as a mid to low end wide receiver 3. But because I do like the fact that, to your point, when he's on the field, he gets targeted at a high rate. They're just scheming him up plays and first reads and all that. So
yeah, the funny thing is, I have DJ Moore projected out right now, just to see kind of how it would shake out. And you know how much I love Roma Dunze. It actually hurts Dunze because you have Zacchaeus and Burton playing more, and they both so far have commanded a higher target rate. I think DJ Moore is going to see more targets going forward, but they command such a high target rate that more playing time for both receivers would likely come at the expense of Roma Dunze. So my rank for him actually went down slightly with DJ Moore out, which is kind of crazy to think and say, but that's just the way it goes. And we saw Loveland start to uptick in his playing time as well. He could become a factor in the passing game. So just a lot of moving parts, even if DJ Moore's healthy, but if he's out, just kind of how to parse through this, it's very interesting.
And remember Walker from the Walker balled out in the preseason too, and they had him as a healthy scratch, I think, last week. So I wonder if he gets a role if he's the number 4 guy now, because Duvernay doesn't seem to be getting any time at receiver. But it's interesting because you could have a situation like the Falcons where it's like Mooney's out and they benched Ray McLeod as well.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. But it didn't matter. It just no passes to any of those guys. So yeah, you don't want to be looking to pick up any.
Just Drake London gets all the targets.
I'm sure Casey Washington will have a game at some point. But I digress. Wide receiver, the guy couple guys I'm targeting are number 1, Sterling Shepard. Number 2, Kendrick Bourne. Now Shepard, he's available in 95% of leagues, and this is more of a speculative act because it looks like Godwin's going to be doubtful. Ibuka, we don't know. And then Evans, also, we don't know for sure. I think there's a chance he comes back, but they're going to play the Lions. The Lions are still relying on some man coverage, even with, they're banged up on the back end. So that could change. But Shepard tends to be the guy that Baker looks for a little more against that kind of scheme. So we'll see. But I think he's worth an ad because this Bucs receiving corps has just been decimated. So, you could have Shepard, Tez Johnson all starting again, this week if Evans isn't back or Ibuka's out or something like that. So I don't think Godwin's coming back this week. And then Kendrick Bourne is going to be the popular one. He's probably going to cost more. Fab, he is, he's been balling out, and this is kind of why you don't draft a Brandon Ayuk, in that upside tier of your draft as opposed to a running back, because what happens if Ayuk comes back? Who do you bench? You can't bench Kendrick Bourne the way he's playing right now. 5 catches for on 9 targets for 142, and we saw this a couple years ago before he got hurt. He was balling out, and then he got hurt, and he wasn't a part of the offense last year in New England, and now he seems to be a big part of this Shanahan offense to the point where I don't even know if he's going to be like the number 3 receiver going forward. Like he might end up being like the number 2 or the number 1, given how Jennings has been struggling with injuries and whatnot. So, but he's a guy I think you would much prefer to have already rostered him. Like you're probably gonna end up paying too much because we just don't know. But I think you can play him this week, and he should be a safe bet for low end wide receiver 3 numbers at the least.
Yeah, when it comes to Sterling Shepard, I think he's definitely the highest floor option. I think Tez Johnson probably offers the most upside. But yeah, is Mike Evans even going to return this week? Because if he doesn't return, Sterling Shepard could be like a 5 reception projection for me. But just kind of I'm assuming Chris Godwin's out. I'm assuming Ibuka misses, and Mike Evans. Is he just going to rush back because everyone's out, or Sterling Shepard? I'm a
50-50.
Yeah.
So I have essentially one of those two is going to play, either Ibuka or Evans. So I think Shepard either way would have a, kind of that same role he's always had. And Tez, that was a good call by you on the touchdown. Tez is a guy that he's very talented, and they love to pepper him with targets. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I just noticed that again, if the Lions kind of stick to their scheme, it would kind of favor Shepard, but they're so banged up that they probably should switch it up a little bit more. So I like Tez long term too. We saw this last year with McMillan, right? Where just a guy who just started off a little, all right, where is he? And then all of a sudden he's just breaking out. And Ryan Miller, where is he? Nowhere to be found. I think.
Just your touchdown.
Cam Johnson caught a touchdown. No,
I know. I got excited at first, but I was like, oh, that guy's too tall to be Tez. But yeah, Tez is a dark horse MVP candidate according to himself. I don't know if you saw that, but they were chanting MVP when he scored, and he's like, "Where are they chanting MVP? I haven't done shit this year." And then Sterling Shepard was like, "He's like, hey, they're chanting MVP for Baker. He's like, oh, that makes way more sense.
Yeah, Baker's been unbelievable, and that's really the reason to just roster Bucks. Period.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually going to talk about another guy shortly, but let's go to tight end. Who are you targeting this week?
This is a rare. Usually, I just give one tight end because that's all that we need to do. But I'm giving two out this week, and the first one is a guy that I think you or I have mentioned every single week so far, but he is a must-add now. It's Harold Fannin Jr., available in 73% of leagues. He's just a clear ad right now with David Njoku injuring his knee. It seems like Njoku's going to miss some time. Plus, I think he is absolutely on the trade block now. So they kind of want Njoku to get healthy so they can trade him away. They're probably freaking out that he got hurt before they traded him away. But I think Fannin Jr. could be the lead tight end for them the rest of the season, which makes him a top 10 option. So you got to add him now before the cat's really out of the bag with him. If you just need, like a 1 week rental, I think Michael Mayer is the best bet. I was sounding the alarm on him last week as a potential tight end when Bowers missed and Mayer was able to return. That's exactly what happened. And he finishes the tight end 5. And we just have to remember that Michael Mayer was a legit first round talent. He fell to the second round because I think the Cowboys passed on him, but he was expected to be the first tight end off the board. So this isn't too dissimilar to, when Trey McBride was backing up Zach Ertz. When Zach Ertz went down, Trey McBride exploded. But unfortunately for Mayer, he's older than Brock Bowers. So he's kind of screwed in dynasty formats because, he's never going to start over Brock Bowers. But he would start on a handful of teams. Long way to say, whenever Brock Bowers is out, we need to add Michael Mayer, bet on him to score, crush his receiving props. It's probably the market has caught on by now. But yeah, he's my tight end 8 to open the week. And the only reason he's that low is because I'm projecting George Kittle to return. So, Michael Mayer could be a top 6 tight end by the end of the week for me. So he is a must add if you need, 1 week replacement. He's the guy because it sounds like Bowers is going to miss this week and then hopefully he's able to return after that. But Mayer is absolutely a mid-range tight end 1 until further notice.
Yeah, the worst thing about Mayer is that they benched Cardio King Deontay Thornton. He's not a Cardio King, but almost a Cardio King like every week. So
yeah.
Now you have more Jack Besh targets to take away.
Well, he was the Cardio King, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. 1 week, right?
No, I think this week. I think Tesla gave him a run for his money, but I think it was Besh this week.
No, are you sure? I feel like I saw. Maybe I'm thinking of 2 weeks ago. This week. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking of the good game he had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
was stuck in my head because he did nothing in this game. I hadn't seen it. I didn't see him get a target in this game. Yeah. 20 routes. No, I think Tesla actually got 22 routes.
Yeah.
Pass snaps. He had 25
by 1. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. If you add Khalif Raymond to that, you get a couple more with
exactly.
I think you play like 2 snaps. Cade Otton is the guy for me, and he's right there too with Mayer. And this is a guy who I think I remember, if I remember correctly, this was like your play of the year, like Cade Otton in the playoffs against Detroit a couple years ago. This feels like a similar situation. Like guys are out, and Otton's been like the last guy standing in a way. We'll see what happens with Ibuka and Evans, obviously, but 2 straight weeks now we've seen Cade Otton, put up 4+ catches, and that's what he could do. He exploded last year in that mid-season stretch where everyone got hurt. I think Godwin and Evans got hurt week 7, and then Otton just turned it on because he's another guy. I think he already Cardio Kinged at least once this year. So he's just not usually as high in the progression for good reason, but 81 yards on 4 catches a couple weeks ago against Seattle, 51 yards on 5 catches last week against San Francisco. And this Lions Bucks game has a total in the 50s, and it is in Detroit. So that is very good news for, just offense in general. So yeah, I like this spot a lot for Otton because Baker's just playing out of his mind. So whoever's high on the progression, he's getting them the ball, and some guys that aren't. So I think I want a lot of Otten this week too.
Yeah. So a couple things. First off, I love to take credit for that. That was Stuckey and Matt Mitchell. Remember,
okay.
they were both
yes.
They just max bet every single market on K-Dot, and I think he cleared it in the second quarter. That game was also the Action Island hit with me, Nick, and Jill. My only with Trey Palmer scoring. My only contribution on that was I had Julio Jones over like 11.5 receiving yards, which he cleared on like the first play of the game, but he like broke his leg. It was the last play of Julio Jones' career, if you remember that. He was getting the start for A.J. Brown, so Julio cleared it on the first play, got injured. We've never seen him play ever again. So that was that.
Wait. That was post. Wait, no, I thought he played on Philly last.
That was the Eagles.
Oh, no, AJ. Yeah. I was thinking of the Titans. I was like, wait, no, I got it.
Yeah, I forgot he played for the Titans. And then last year, just heading into the season, I was saying K. Dotton was a potential league winner, along with Brock Bowers, because he had never played a game where either Mike Evans or Chris Godwin had missed time. They had both been healthy 2 straight seasons. And he's the cardio king because he's out there 90% of the routes, but he can't command targets. And then sure enough, both those wide receivers missed the same exact, 3-week stretch or whatever. And K. Dotton was a top 5 tight end. So that brings me back to now. This is a great, waiver wire ad that you brought up because the wide receiver room is in such flux. K. Dotton's going to be out there 95% of the snaps. He might actually see targets this week. So he's probably, going to be a top 10 value if Mike Evans is also out, along with
Bucky's still out too, looks like. I think Bucky's doubtful as well.
Yeah, I forgot to even say that. Bucky's out too. So yeah, even more reason to kind of lean on K. Dotton more than normal. And in these spots, he has stepped up in the past.
Yeah, it was his stat lines. It was week 7 against Baltimore when those guys went down last year. 10 targets for Otten in that game, 8 catches, 100 yards. The next week, 10 targets, 9 catches, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. The next week, 11 targets, 8 catches, 77 yards, and another tutty. And then he finally cooled off against the Niners. But, they have Fred Warner. He still caught 5 balls, but only for 35 yards, 8 targets, still good. And then I think Godwin made his return. Evans made his return, again in that Giants game, and Otten was back to doing nothing for the rest of the year.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at that now. What a stretch. That reminds me of was it Higbee at the end of like the 2020 season or something?
Higbee was better though because he carried it pretty much all the way through, and then it was like coming into next year, you didn't know what to do with him. If did you rank him based on that stretch? Did you rank him based on his career? Like, was he even going to be the starter? It was a lot. All right, but I think Otten should be good for at least a week. I mean, this is a shootout regardless, and touchdowns on the table here. Let's go to defense, special teams, Koerner. Who you like for week 7? There's some good options out there.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with the Patriots here, who are facing the Titans. They're available in around half the leagues, but I'm going to continue to pick on the Titans. Raiders were my pick last week. They finished as the number 2 defense. Just anybody facing the Titans is going to get you a handful of sacks, potentially some turnovers, and not allow many points. That's all you could ask for when it comes to your defense. The Titans just fired Callahan, so doesn't that mean they're probably going to cover the spread and be better this week? Usually teams, after they fire their coach, don't they have like a stretch
a little bit of a bump? It's usually priced in at this point, but I do expect. I mean, something has to be better because everything is terrible.
Yeah, no, Ridley might miss. This is already one of the worst group of pass catchers, and you're going to be without potentially your top receiver in that kind of offense. Hurts.
Iamanor's out.
No, Ridley. Iamanar probably is the top wide receiver, which again, if your top receiver is a 4th round rookie, again, that's a big problem. Christian Gonzalez is back, so he could shut down whoever the hell is their number 1 wide receiver at this point. I just think that bigger picture though, Cam Ward is in such a terrible position. He's going to have, historically bad numbers this year, but I wouldn't give up on him. if you watch some of the throws he made last week, only a handful of other quarterbacks could make those throws. So if he has better coaching, better, offensive line play, better pass catchers, I think he could be, an above average quarterback, but it's not happening this year in this scheme. So I've seen mixed opinions about him. I'm not giving up on him quite yet. I think this is an awful, awful situation for him.
Yeah, I think this might be the first time like a quarterback's ADOT is within 10 yards of the team's yards per drive. Like Titans average like 19 yards per drive. He's got like an 8 ADOT or something like that. So it's like,
it's
that
bad.
is just absurd. I'm going with the Browns. You mentioned the Titans are in a pickle. I mean, the Dolphins might be in an even worse spot because they're just kind of, it's status quo. And Tua essentially threw McDaniel under the bus and, all the stars. And then McDaniel threw Tua right back under the bus. Like, I didn't expect that. I really just didn't expect that. So, the Dolphins are a team that all offseason just looked like a disaster to me. And it almost looked like too much of a disaster to where they were just going to start out on fire and make us all look stupid. Kind of like me with the Colts. Like, that was like the one. And then they come out and get blown out by the Colts. And I'm like, uh-oh. So the Dolphins, they haven't gotten it together yet. Tua's thrown 7 picks. The offensive line is not good. He's taken 13 sacks. Could be more. No Tyreek Hill changes this offense. And the Browns, they're one of the best defenses in the league anyway. And Devon Achane is not running for whatever he ran for last week against the Browns. Like, they have been shutting down opponents. And if you don't have that, I mean, Darren Waller, you got to get to the red zone for him, I guess, first. So yeah, this Dolphins team is, I want to target them too, because they might be the new Titans now. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Who's the favorite last week or heading up to last week for the first coach to be fired? I'm sure McDaniel and Callahan were pretty close. No.
Yeah, they had to be. I don't remember who was. I know Dabo was in the mix for a while, but then I think he might have gone down a little bit because of Dart. Obviously getting that.
Yeah, that's why he's stalking him everywhere he goes. And he does. That's his ass on the line right there. But
I mean, and of course they lose to the Saints. The loss that they do have with Dart, it's hilarious. Yeah. But I think the Browns should be available. I think they're a top 5 defense as well. If you don't get to New England, but New England, you got to target the Titans first. But Dolphins right up there as well, especially given how good the Browns are and they're at home. But let's finish it out with kicker. Koerner, who is your top kicker target on the waiver wire for week number 7?
Yeah, it's not that great of a week at kicker. I'm going to go with Michael Badgley here. I think we kind of saw the breaking news when we were recording last week that Spencer Schrader was placed on the IR and Badgley replaced him. And Schrader was one of the top scoring kickers before he went down. I think you said he was the number 1 kicker.
The kicker 1.
In fantasy points. So this is an offense that clearly sets up the kicker for, plenty of potential points. And, Badgley's going to be at the Chargers this week. So, they have a decent team total, but this is a defense that, if they get in the red zone, might stall a bit more than normal. So I like Badgley here. He's my kicker 12, though, but I think he's a high floor option. Kicking indoors at LA here against the Chargers. I believe it's a revenge game for Badgley, right? He was the Chargers kicker for a while. It's like a set it and forget it thing. If you don't like, adding a kicker every week, they face the Titans at home next week indoors. So, he'll probably be in my top 10 next week. But there's a handful of options. I think right now Badgley is probably the higher floor option. So I'll go with him. He's, still available in 90% of leagues as well. So he should be very easy to get if he's available.
Yeah. The guy I'm going with, I actually was surprised to see him as high as he is in my model. It's Eddie Pinheiro. He is my kicker 7 this week. And I look up at, you talk about fantasy points. He's actually the number 2 kicker in average fantasy points per game, right behind Schrader now. So Pinheiro, for me, again, home favorite. And he's been getting a lot of field goal attempts in these spots. The Niners have been moving the ball for the most part, but stalling out and kind of playing in these, these games where they're kicking field goals. And we know Shanahan, he'll kick, if he feels like he can trust his kicker. Although his former kicker, had a good day last night on Monday Night Football against the Commanders. But yeah, Piñeiro, number 2 kicker on the year in 5 games. So can't really go away from him here. He's not going to nail a bunch of a long kicks, so you are kind of depending on the Niners to move the ball here. But I think against the Jaguars, you would kind of expect that, like the Niners to move the ball, but maybe stall out a couple of times. Jaguars have been playing solid D for the most part this year.
Yeah, I actually have the guy that Piñeiro replaced, Jake Moody, around kicker 12, but that's still, I haven't really factored in last night's epic performance. What are your thoughts on him now in that? Because they have a good matchup this week at home against the Saints. And Moody
at home. Yeah, I mean, I don't want him kicking in Chicago, even if it is. I mean, we already know he can't kick in wind. He's in San Francisco.
Yeah, now he's in the windy city.
He got cut.
Yeah, that's he's around kicker 12, but I haven't. I still have his shitty baseline right now. I haven't adjusted from last night. But
it's still shitty. It hasn't changed.
Still shitty. Yeah, it's probably still shitty.
Like, remember, what was it, Parker Romo or whatever? Like, he had like this great game, and then the next week he missed like two field goals.
Yeah,
these kickers, you can't trust these
fickle.
guys. I mean, even Piñeiro, wasn't he? Where did he come from? He was he got picked up after week 1, right? Because Moody was cut.
Piñeiro is Chicago, Carolina. He's been on.
He's on San Francisco.
A million teams.
No, but I'm saying he's only on the Niners because of Moody. That's up anyway.
That's what I'm saying. So he replaced Moody. But
can't trust any of these guys, to be honest. Yeah. But I would lean Piñeiro over just because I guess they're both windy. I don't know. I have Piñeiro higher. So that's what I'm going with.
Check their weather report. We don't know what it is yet, but might be worth checking this week, especially with it's even raining here in LA. We're getting that time of year where we're going to see more weather games.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, they're actually pretty Moody would be my kicker 10. Piñeiro. Oh, Piñeiro jumped to kicker 5. Ooh, okay, so yeah, still got him a couple points, but it's nothing. We're talking about kickers, so that's an extra point you're talking about.
Yep.
But that's going to do it. Way too much kicker talk here on the Week 7 Waiver Wire episode of the Fantasy Flex podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Flex so you don't miss an episode all season long. And don't forget, you can check out the Fantasy Labs app for all of our projections. Use code FLEX20 for $20 off. We'll be back with our player projections episode. Sean's on X @_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. Same handles on the Action Network app. Let's get this money.